Hey everyone, hopefully you can hear me okay. It's windy like usual. We've got another big step today. I have the trailer connected to the RAV4. Both battery packs are connected in parallel. I tested that last night, made a quick little video on that. But we're taking our first little range test. We're driving up to Rochester and back, so it's gonna be about 200 miles round trip, which better be no problem. I've done that many times with the version 1, which had the smaller RAV4 battery pack, so it really should be fine. Unfortunately, I don't have the controller yet for the Tesla battery pack in this. I really wish that was here, because that controller is going to manage the temperature of the battery pack. It's going to open and close contactors based on cell voltages, total voltages, temperature. I really need to get that thing in here, and I just really have to worry about watching for the low voltage in the Tesla 85 kilowatt hour battery pack. So the bottom threshold for this battery pack, I believe, is like 288 volts total. So that's 3 volts per cell times 96. So that low threshold is going to be higher than in the RAV4. And when they're connected in parallel, this one is going to mimic the RAV4, because the RAV4 has all of the controls. So if I let it, the RAV4 would pull this thing down past 288 volts, past 3 volts per cell. That's like the one issue that I need to watch for. I guess the other one is the temperatures on the T-Rex. So I don't have the heater. The heater's all connected. It's all in here and ready, but I don't have the controller to open or close the heater contactor or the cooling based on temperature. So I think it's going to be fine. Today actually is a pretty cool day. It's only going to be around 60 degrees outside, so I should be fine. I'm not going to have to worry about it overheating, but it probably should be heated a little bit. And in the RAV4, we have 2 range modes. We have the regular normal charge, which I believe is up to like 80%. And then we have the range extended mode, which charges it all the way up to 100%. So I did an extended range mode charge. I'll flip the camera around and show you guys. I have the tablet with all the data on there, and I'll show you the screen, see what it says. Hey guys, I'm inside the car, safe from the wind, but I'm topping off the battery packs. So I did a complete charge, but I have noticed that the battery voltage will sag a little bit when it's done. So a lot of times before a long trip, I will reconnect the charger after maybe 10 minutes or something, and it does get me a little bit more power. So you can see my battery voltage here. I can even refresh both of these. So you can see my battery voltage, my battery amps, and state of charge. So it looks like I do have some degradation with my onboard pack inside the RAV4. So far, I'm only at 37.2, and it's been right around that number for quite some time now. So looks like I've lost about 4 kilowatt hours in that battery pack, which equates to roughly 12 miles. And it shows the battery temperatures, 13 and 12, high and low, and it shows the cell voltage, 14.10. I never see it get to 14.2. I think that's just some safeguards that Toyota and Tesla have in place. These cells can handle up to 4.2 volts, but it never goes quite that high. So if I flip over to the T-Rex, it shows the voltage. And again, if you watch my last video that I just made, the battery amp calculation is wrong. The 1,000 amps seems like the baseline. So if it goes above or below, it's either positive or minus. And in this case, it's gaining 8.4 amps. The car loop dongle that I'm using was set for the CAN data from the Toyota RAV4 battery pack. So the CAN data is very similar, but that's one stat that's just slightly different in a Tesla battery pack. So that's why it's different. And the state of charge, we haven't collected the correct data for that yet. So again, a similar stat where it's slightly different than the RAV4. State of charge percentage won't be accurate because the other numbers aren't accurate. And high and low temp, 12 and 11. So obviously you can see that right off the bat, they're really close to each other. And of course, the cell voltages, high and low, are going to be different than the RAV4 battery pack, because the T-Rex has 96 series cells and the RAV4 battery pack has 92. So that's why they can be at the same voltage, but have different cell voltages. So yeah, just topping it off, and we'll head out here shortly. and see how it goes. All right, quick update before we head out. It just finished charging, and I refreshed both tabs, and I just wanted to show you what it looked like fully charged and about to shove off. So 377 volts, 4.11 volts per cell. Temperatures both are near identical, which is great. I'll definitely keep an eye on these numbers. This is the T-Rex, so I just want to see if they end up getting too high or too low. I can manually turn on the heater and the coolant pumps. We'll see if we need it or not. Luckily, it's a cool day, and you can see the T-Rex is only at 3.95 volts per cell, so there's still definitely room there for more capacity. All right, I guess that's it. I'll leave it there, and I'm gonna finish packing up the car and head out of here. Well, we made it to Rochester. We have, see if you can see that, 91.8 miles. This is basically half our trip. And you can see the gasometer on the left, which if you know the RAV4 is not very accurate, but the blips on the side are accurate. So you can see how much battery we still have left from this trip. And then over here, you can see how much regenerative braking we've done. That's pretty crazy seeing such high numbers after being on the highway. And then up here, so this is the RAV, 342 volts. I still have 22 kilowatt hours remaining. So we started off with 37, and there's the temperatures and the high-low voltage. We'll go over to the T-Rex. Voltage is the same as you'd expect. Curiously, we're losing some power from the T-Rex into the RAV4, it looks like. So 0.3 amps is coming into the RAV. So I think that has to do with the impedance of these two battery packs. I actually thought it was going to be reverse of this, unfortunately. I thought I was going to lose power from the RAV4 into the T-Rex because I think the T-Rex has a lower impedance. But it looks like they're balancing just fine. And temperatures look great, 19 and 17.5. It's a bit of a difference, a little bit more than I would normally want, but I think it's great considering that the coolant pump isn't even turning, hasn't been on this whole trip. Then you can see the cell voltages still look great. So we're gonna go into the mall and get some food and hang out, then head back in a little bit. But so far, so good. Hey guys, I'm not surprised if you can't hear me because it's super windy, but I just thought I'd show you the newest charging station in Waterloo, New York at the Waterloo Premium Outlets. It's unfortunately not done yet. I can show you right over here behind me is where probably those big transformers, those big boxes, sometimes I think they might even have batteries in them. But yeah, so I'm here now. I wasn't planning on charging, I don't really need to, but I just thought I'd show you guys what's going on here. Unfortunately, all of these are CCS. So there's 2, 4, 6, 7 CCS and 1 CHAdeMO right here. And so what sucks is you can drive through all of those spots over there, but the 1 CHAdeMO station I won't be able to drive through. I'd have to maybe drive through here and kind of be a dick and take up a couple spots. But anyways, you probably can't really hear me. I'm gonna update you on some numbers inside the car where you hopefully can hear me, but I just thought I'd at least show you guys where I'm at and what's going on and the kind of wind that I'm dealing with. It's crazy, it's so windy. All right, everything's looking pretty good. I've done 135 miles. You can see on the left, I still have slightly less than half of the RAV4 battery pack remaining. I know it's like right there on the halfway mark, but technically it's a little less than half. I can actually show you on the tablet here in a second. So the progress is going really well. You can see all the regen that it thinks I'm getting, which is the power coming from the T-Rex V2 up to the front. The car thinks it's regen. And then up here, I'll show you our numbers. I just refreshed this when I parked. Right now, or at least when I refreshed this just a little while ago, I was losing 2 amps into the V2 battery. 331 volts, 15 kilowatt hours remaining inside the RAV4 battery pack. Temperatures look good, nice and close. Voltages are the same. Then we'll go over to the T-Rex. Voltage is the same, and 1.4 amps is going into the T-Rex. And going back to the RAV4, you can see where the RAV4 is losing 2.4 amps. So yeah, for some reason the T-Rex is getting power from the RAV4, but I'll continue to watch that. You can see how temperatures are very close. Even the RAV4 compared to the T-Rex, it's really interesting how close they stay, and just a slight difference in high-low voltage per cell. But things are going really well. I'd have to do some math quickly to see approximately how much range I would have left. I always figure I have at least double the kilowatt hours of the RAV4. So I would have at least 30 kilowatt hours. So 3 times 30, at least 90 miles, probably significantly more, I'm guessing. So say 100, so that would be 235 miles total so far is the way it's looking. But all right, I just want to take a quick clip. We're gonna go do some walking around, and I have probably about another hour drive home, and I think it's roughly another 60-ish miles to go home. But yeah, things are looking really good. Got back, we're home safe and sound. Everything worked, no catastrophes. The range was okay. I'll flip the camera around and take you inside the RAV4 here in a minute. We can go over some numbers, but everything held together on the outside just fine. One thing that might help is if I put a nose cone on the front here. You can search for it online. That's another strategy that some trailer companies use, and it would be basically a curved shape here that wraps all the way around and then helps direct the air around it, because I think it's pretty close to the outline of the RAV4. So I think that might help a little bit, but I also kind of want to put that off until maybe I figure out a different car at some point. And I only say that because I am just dying to get a Tesla truck, which I know is probably years down the road, but I thought if I'd have to change the front end of this trailer if I got a truck or something different. So, but something I'm thinking about. But yeah, so everything went fine. I'll flip the camera around and we'll go over some numbers. So right now I am recharging the car. When I parked, the range did say 10, so it's already gained 1 mile. But you can see my trip right there is 184.3 miles, which I'm a little surprised and bummed that it's so low. Like had great range, like halfway through, even my last stop, I thought we were doing great, but a lot of times what I always forget on these road trips is that at the very end, it tapers off pretty quick. It's kind of like a gas tank in that it seems like the top quarter tank lasts forever, but it starts dropping pretty quickly as the tank empties. I've noticed it seems like a similar thing with this RAV4 on road trips. And then up here, if you look at my tablet, here's the RAV4. You can see I have 3.6 kilowatt hours remaining in the RAV4 battery pack. Temperatures look perfect. And then the number I was really watching were the cell voltage. As I was driving, they were getting pretty close to 3 volts under load. So I was a little nervous about that, but we made it just fine. And even so, usually this number I find is pretty accurate for range tests. Then if I flip it over to the T-Rex, the voltage is different, you might notice, and that's because I opened the contactor that connects these 2 battery packs right around the time we were home, pretty close here, because the voltage per cell here at the bottom was getting pretty close to 3, and like I mentioned earlier, they're a different configuration, so this is going to hit bottom before the RAV4 pack. So I was just trying to protect that so it didn't damage anything. But going back up, obviously the amp number, like I said before, it was not accurate. State of charge isn't accurate. That number hasn't changed a whole lot. Temperatures still look great, even despite the fact this whole trip I haven't had the heater or the radiator connected. And also the fluid pump, I never even had to turn on. But then you go to the bottom here, and there is a pretty big difference in the high and low cell voltage, which I have noticed before. It seems like a lot of these battery packs, as the voltage gets near the bottom, it can get kind of a big difference. My T-Rex, the V1, we have it connected to the house for home energy storage. And once that thing gets down really low to close to 3 volts, I see this big of a difference, maybe even slightly more. And at first it made me pretty nervous, but it only seems to happen when it's really low in voltage, and it always balances back out as the battery gets recharged. So then if I go back to the RAV4, my theory is that I always only have double this number at most. I know it's a little tricky because I know it has to do with impedance of each battery pack as well, and I'm still figuring that part out in actual use. I'm really curious to see how that develops. But that's my theory, that I actually have double this number for range left. So if I figure, what's that, 7.2? So if I have 7.2 kilowatt hours remaining, and if I multiply that by 3.5, actually, clear, 7.2 times 3.5. So 3.5 is what I've seen, even when you're pulling stuff, that's what I'll get on the highway. I've heard a lot of people say that having the weight or having the drag in the back is really going to kill your range. It actually doesn't. Like for highway speed, I've tested this with the other battery pack. Watch my other videos for that. I'm seeing 3.4, 3.5 in real world usage while towing the version 1. So I'll use 3.5. So that means I have 25 miles left in theory. So then 25 plus the 184 plus 184. So 209 miles, which I was hoping for more. I think this headwind that I had most of this trip really took a toll. I'm always amazed at how much of effect that the wind has. If you've ever driven an electric car on a really windy day or in bad conditions, you probably have noticed that your range is much worse than normal. So I'm hoping I can get closer to 250. I mean, I was hoping for more, but more testing. Yeah, more test drives, more road trips, and I'll get a better idea of what kind of range this has. But even so, I mean, that's still pretty good, and considering I'm pulling this enormous thing behind me that I can sleep in, not bad, but we'll see how it goes. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good day.